yeah, Vanillux doesn't get enough love.
Yeah, I was about to bring up. Of course, there's always going to be the asshole that says like Dunsparce doesn't get enough love.
Actually, my favorite is the Litwick line, because they burn souls, and that's just fucking cool.
It's like Generation 5 had some of the darkest twists.
Oh yeah.
Like, the implications of Yamask is terrifying.
Yes. Which is funny, because usually the lesser evolution isn't quite as terrifying as the greater. But Copagrigus, all that does is wrap people up and turn them into mummies, which is scary enough, yeah. But Yamask is just... oh.
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar with Pokemon, Yamask's Pokedex description reads something like, this Pokemon will occasionally look at the mask which resembles what it looked like as a human and weeps.
Yes.
Yamask is a fucking human soul! The implications of this!
Yeah. Pretty terrifying.
Oh good, we're back to doing this.
Yeah? I wonder if you need to this time.
Well, it directed me here.
Oh. I wasn't
I got
paying
it.
attention. Yeah, you got it.
Damn it.
There we
Fact
go.
that you can fuck it up.
Oh, yeah, it was auto-saving.
Yeah.
We're good to go. Yay!
Isn't the Robert...
Yep. Yeah. I've only played Gen 1 and 5,
Boop.
and I fucking loved 5. Which is weird, because I don't fucking love Pokemon in general. But that one, I don't know, it had a nice, cool storyline, which is something that just doesn't happen in Pokemon ever.
Well, Gens 1 through 4 were pretty much, let's just polish what we have.
Yeah, which is good.
And
But there are still some issues.
oh yeah, there's always going to be issues with games. But once you get to Gen 5 and 6, they're like, let's make this a little bit more plot in the single-player story.
Yeah.
Diglets. There's a bit more plot, and there's a bit more going on.
Yeah.
No!
Well, the
Stop
lore,
it!
Lore kind of matters.
Yeah. Like, that also happens in the remakes. The...
Omega Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, yeah.
Which I still need to get around to playing, Jesus Christ. I got it at launch, and I have not played it yet.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, I'm a guy that used to do shiny breeding, so I'm not exactly a casual Pokemon fan. I have like half a box of shinies that I got all legit.
Yeah.
And it's just... it's Marvel Puzzle Crack. It came down to the point where it's like, I only have time for one of these games, and for some reason I chose Marvel Match 3 over Pokemon. But like, Gens 5 and 6, they really get cinematic with it.
Uh-huh.
Now this also turns into the problem of You're the Chosen One.
Yeah.
That comes out.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of problems with the X and Y story.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's a character that comes out and is very obviously the leader of the evil team,
Uh-huh.
and no one ever seems to notice.
Oh, God.
And he talks about things that are really starting to sound like being pro-genocide.
Okay.
And everyone's like, yeah, this guy's kind of cool. And it's like, really? Are we listening to the same guy here?
Yeah, maybe they're taking cues from the TV show.
Maybe.
No, I like Gen 5's storyline.
Yeah.
Because, like, it actually has some sympathetic characters, including a kind of villain.
Yeah. Like,
Actually, most of the villains are relatively sympathetic.
yeah,
Even
like,
the big bad is, like, interesting.
yeah.
Which was shocking for me, because I never gave much credence to Pokemon in general, just because it's always been kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't quite as stupid, and I'm like, wow, this is actually really good comparatively.
Yeah. Yeah, for Gen 5 with me, the only character I really didn't like was friggin' N.
Uh-huh.
Just because I hate that kind of character.
Oh.
And, also, he came off as just a little bit special in my playthrough,
Uh-huh.
purely by accident.
Okay.
Because, I had a Roggenrola in my first slot when he came to, like, let me talk to your Pokemon. It's like, and you're talking to a rock. Well, that just happened.
Yep.
It's like, what? And you're kind of creeping me out a little bit there, buddy. You're talking to a rock. Oh, go away. So N talked to a rock, and then every time he showed up, he kind of said something that annoyed me in one way, shape, or form.
Uh-huh.
And then finally it's like, follow your dream. Do you have a dream? I'm like, yes. Okay. Now whatever you do, chase it. And he's like, no! No, come back! My dream is to punch you in the face! I need you here for that!
Well, he said to chase it.
Damn it! Come on, Domanitan, we have a job to do. I want to punch him in the face. Then I want my monkey to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
I love Domanitan. Gen 5 has so many of my favorites. Like,
Yeah.
Chandelure, I love. Domanitan, I love.
Yep.
Scrafty, I absolutely adore.
Oh god, Scrafty was great. Yeah, my final party was Scrafty, Coffagrigus, Chandelure, Vanillux, because Vanillux is hilarious.
I saw no
shoot, who
sign
else?
of your relatives,
Guess it
Birdie.
doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, I can't remember who my final team in Gen
Yeah.
5 was.
I think I wound up using the legendary
You
that you
escaped
get.
from the
I played
egg
white,
carrier.
so it was the black one.
Yeah, Zekrom.
Yeah.
Zekrom, my restaurant. Yeah, there was a point in my job where we needed to do the cross-training section,
Uh-huh.
where we kind of trained each other on the jobs we had.
Okay.
This was very clearly, whoever was in charge of the program couldn't think of anything good for us to do.
Uh-huh.
So, our job for about 2.5 weeks was each one of us had this presentation to go through. And it was it was a prescribed presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we could have little bits to change here and there, but overall, they wanted us to do the same general presentation.
Okay.
Because we were part of this training program. And so the job was, for 2 weeks, come in, if it's your day, half of the day is you giving this presentation,
Uh-huh.
and then the other half of the day is listening to somebody else give the presentation. If it's not your turn to give the presentation that day, your job is to sit there and listen to 2 other people give the presentation.
Oh my god.
And it's the same fucking presentation for, like, 2 weeks every day, 6 days a week.
Uh-huh.
And it was the most mind-numbing thing. Like, all of us were starting to lose our minds.
Yeah.
And the way I kept it together was I just decided one day, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see how many Pokemon I can remember by name off the top of my head. So I sat there with a notepad, and I looked like I was taking notes, and one of my coworkers was like, how are you keeping this many notes? I'm not listening to anything they're saying. It doesn't matter. Like, then what are you writing down? I'm trying to see how many Pokemon names I can remember. What are you up to? I'm up to 618.
Oh my god.
And it's like, what is wrong with your life?
Yeah.
And I look at this, and I think, alright, for shits and giggles, I can remember over 600 names of trivial, made-up animals.
Yeah.
I can memorize 10 reason codes for this, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, for your job.
Yeah. Like, for my job, I'm actually pulling this out during training, because I'm training people with, like, okay, people I'm training, there are 10 reason codes for doing this. Please memorize them. It's 10 things. It's not that hard. Look, I'm a giant nerd, and I've memorized over 700 pieces of trivial information for this one thing. And it's completely useless.
Yep.
Stop and think about it in your life. The things you have memorized that have no bearing on anything.
Yeah.
Sports fans, what statistics can you pull straight out of your head from years that have gone way past? Think about this and put it into context.
Mm-hmm.
We're paying you. Just remember these 10 things. If you can't remember the 10, there's only one you really need to know.
Yep.
The rest of them, something else will tell you. And no one did. They all sucked ass.
Of course.
Well, some of them were good. Most of them sucked.
Yeah.
Not gonna say what I was doing because Anyway,
But that's usually the case. Like, whenever you get somebody in a low-paid job, they don't care that much, and so they wind up sucking horribly.
Yeah. Well, it was less it was a low-paid job and more of 90% of the people we had working for the...
Okay.
Oh no! Are you okay?
See, this is something I love about robots in fiction,
Uh-huh.
is, like,
You do this.
the mission is no longer relative. What your master or what your programmer was trying to accomplish is done and gone.
Uh-huh.
But no one told the robot, and the robot's task was just do this, so it still wants to do that.
Yeah.
It's like he wanted the emerald, that's why he wanted the bird. He doesn't give a shit about the bird.
Yeah.
He got the emerald, he's done with that bird. No one told this robot, so the robot's like, get
Still going
bird.
after the bird, yep. Yeah, so you're talking about low-wage job people.
Well, in this particular job, it was more of, like, you need to do this... Well, now I'm dead.
Oopsie.
It was more of 90% of the people doing it were retirees that saw this more as like a hobby.
Yeah.
It was more important than a hobby, but they didn't see it that way, and that caused problems.
I'm not gonna grab a ring.
Yeah, I just noticed there are rings in the area. Back you!
There we go.
Ah,
Oops.
Diglett. Bam! There we
yeah.
go. That's how you do it. Take him off the top rope.
Pretty lucky you got the got those electrified fences around.
Yeah,
Otherwise you wouldn't be able to avenge your horrible friend.
yeah. Horrible bird murder.
Fuck birds. Birds are terrible.
This is a really weird thing with me. I'm not a huge fan of birds. I think most birds are awful. I fucking love griffins.
Well, griffins are like half lion, so
Yeah.
there's that.
Well, here's the other thing. I don't particularly care that much about lions either.
Uh-huh.
It's like the component parts of griffins and hippogriffs and all that whole line of things. I don't care. Lions, yeah, you're kind of cool, whatever. I'm not a huge lion fan.
Yeah.
Birds, most birds are terrible.
Yeah.
Griffins, I fucking love griffins.
Alright.
I don't know why.
Yeah, it's just the aesthetic, I guess.
I guess. And also, I don't like birds, but my favorite Pokemon's Blaziken. I don't get it.
Yeah?
I guess it's the fact that it's a Kung Fu Fire Chicken.
Yeah, probably.
Please wake up,
I named the
Furry.
one I trained Keefid, which is spicy chicken and I think Thai.
Are
Oh my
you
God.
okay? Can you
Be
feel
careful, this chicken has a bit of a kick to him. Oh.
That's terrible.
Like I've had three Blazekins I've really raised up. The first I raised was Skyrunner, which is a Blaziken, was my starter Pokemon in Ruby when Ruby launched, and I still have him. I've been transferring him through the games.
Yeah.
So even when my Pearl got erased, he happened to be on a different game.
Uh-huh.
Whoa!
So he's as old as a Pokemon can be, and he's still one of my favorites. And when I'm like doing EXP share training, I'll still bust him out to do the training
Uh-huh.
because of sentimentality reasons.
Right.
Then there's like his descendant, who I've EV and IV. Well, I EV trained him because that was Moateru, which is Japanese for burning up.
Okay.
But it's like burning up passion.
Uh-huh.
Like Domo Kashu's theme from G Gundam is Moateru something or other.
Uh-huh.
So it's that kind of burning up.
Okay.
And I know this is a decent pun
My best
because when I was living in Japan, I kind of got back into Pokemon and I showed this Pokemon's name to some of the Japanese people that were playing it, and every time I did, they giggled.
Nice.
It's like, yeah, we get that pun.
So it's effective.
Yeah. There was a couple of that I weaved out, and Google translated Japanese, and they just gave confused looks when I showed the names. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, wait, what's the word you're trying to say? Because this is gibberish.
Yeah.
But then I showed them Moteru, like, we get it.
Nice.
You're a nerd. That's Amy's.
Yep.
Yep.
That was very important.
Yeah, she chased a bird around, and we've already seen her entire plotline through other characters.
Yeah.
Good job, Amy. At least she wasn't a damsel in distress most of the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, she gets captured, but she isn't saved by Sonic.
No.
In fact, Sonic seems surprised when she sees her up there. It's like, oh, right, you were kidnapped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sonic is no Mario in that regard.
No.
Um,
Which is okay.
yeah. But, yeah, stupid Pokemon names.
Fucking song.
Swinging jazz.
Yeah.
I do like most of the soundtrack.
Uh-huh.
Like, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the Sonic theme is painful. Everyone else, either I like the theme, or it's good. It's not my thing, but it's decent.
Yeah.
It's not painful to listen to.
Yeah. Well, Sonic usually has pretty decent music. Like, for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's to laugh at. Other times it's just like it pumps you up.
Well, like the original Sonic music
Yeah,
was composed by Michael Jackson.
some of it.
Some
In
of it.
Sonic 3.
But like not that much, because then Jackson actually heard what the Genesis is capable of producing. It's like,
Yeah.
poor Genesis.
Yeah. Well, Moonwalker came out on Genesis.
Yeah, which is weird. Weird that he would distance himself because of the sound chip and then put his game on it.
Yeah.
There was one thing that the Genesis sound chip was really good for, and that was bass lines.
Uh-huh.
And I think that really influenced because a lot of Sega games have really strong bass lines.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, I remember I love games where you fly around in airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
I love dogfighting games, and by that I mean, like, people that don't know the term, 2 airplanes fighting each other is a dogfight.
Yeah.
I don't mean like Michael Vick style. I love dogfighting games. It's pretty much the Ace Combat series or bust, and now it's completely bust because they ruined the Ace Combat series. But Sega has a handful of decent dogfighting games. They're really arcadey as all hell. I think it's the Afterburner series. But that, like, 90% of the soundtrack is bass lines.
Uh-huh.
Like, pumped up bass lines, like, kind of, those kind of bass lines.
Yeah.
But yeah. And for those wondering what happened to Ace Combat, I adore the Ace Combat series. They have this really bizarre thing where their storytelling and their gameplay are inversely proportioned to each other. I've only played the PS2 ones and on, so Ace Combat 4 and on. Ace Combat 4 has amazing framework for its story, but the gameplay is the most basic. It's still really good, but it's the most basic of all the Ace Combat games from the PS2 generation on. The story is framed, the narration is a letter to your character written by a war orphan raised by the rival Aces.
Damn.
So, it's written to you well after the fact of the war.
Uh-huh.
You never hear your character's voice, you never see your character. And this is a theme you get with a lot of the Ace Combat games.
Yeah.
But it's being told not only from the perspective of the enemy, but the perspective of a child being raised by the enemy.
Right.
So it really captures the complexity of war.
Yeah.
It's like, you shot down the enemy ace. That's a moment of triumph. You just killed the narrator's surrogate father,
Right.
who wasn't a bad man.
Yeah. He was just fighting for the other side.
Right. That's a really interesting framework. Ace Combat 5, it's a bit more going on. It's told from the perspective of your squad. All the cutscenes are in first person from your character's perspective.
Yeah.
What cutscenes there are. And that one is a bit more wacky. Like, the plot basically boils down to, it's not on Earth, but the stand-in for the Germans are trying to trigger a war between the stand-in for the Russians and the stand-in for the Americans as revenge for the stand-in of World War II.
Okay.
So it's like this weird conspiracy. It's a conspiracy theory in a game where you spend the entire game in an airplane. It's so fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
And then Ace Combat 0, it's just like this war's going on. But that's when branching paths were like the big thing. This is around the time of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
And the story is told, again, after the fact. And it's interviewing rival aces you shot down.
Uh-huh.
And because of how you play the game, the branching paths can differ. So how people address your character changes dramatically. Like,
Select your character.
he was a noble warrior, he would not shoot down damaged planes, or it's like, this guy was a fucking monster.
Yeah.
He would leave no survivors in his wake. We thought we could take him, we were wrong.
Nice.
So it's like, that's really cool. And who you're interviewing, like who's being interviewed even changes, because it changes like the aces you fight.
Okay.
And what made that really interesting is they really stepped up the difficulty of the aces.
Yeah.
As far back as I can remember.
So when you fought an ace in that, it felt like something,
Mm-hmm.
and it was actually
Always guarding
challenging.
the Master Emerald,
Um,
anything that could harm it.
And then
don't know why I
in
was given this
6,
job.
which is the whole reason I bought an
It was my
Xbox
fate.
360 because it was exclusive for a while.
Destined to be here
Uh,
forever.
the plot was cringeworthy every time you saw it because it kept jumping between different characters.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, the only character worth listening to was a tank commander who convinced his crew to go AWOL so they could go treasure hunting in a
Okay.
tank.
Okay.
That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Then you have a mother who may have lost her family in the war. She doesn't know. Like, she sends her kid off on a bus, and the bridge the bus is on explodes off in the distance. And it's her kind of wandering through the war zone looking for her family.
Okay.
And then you have an old colonel on the other side of the war, from what you're fighting, interviewing people who are POWs.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of those things where, like, all the storylines come together in the end, which I kind of like. But the writing, the pacing, and the voice acting are all universally terrible.
That's unfortunate.
So, I wasn't paying any attention to the cutscenes, but because of the added processing power of the last generation, the fields of operation were so much bigger, and it gave you, like, multiple mission objectives. It's like, here are 5 mission objectives. Resolving 2 of these will move on to the next stage of the mission.
Okay.
So you can't do everything. So you have to pick and choose who you want to help.
Huh.
Which, anyone who knows anything about the army is not how that works at all. But yeah. And then Ace Combat Assault is the newest one. And that's the one that killed the franchise for me. Because it has 2 things that are awful. First, it has these really cinematic moments where you're like doing all these crazy dogfights, and you're doing all this like loop-de-loops, and you're flying through buildings that are blowing up and all this crazy
Right,
stuff.
you did say the gameplay was inversely proportional.
Yeah, but here's the thing about it. No matter how good you are, those sequences are super scripted.
Oh.
So no matter how many times you get locked on or how many bullets you manage to hit on the enemy ace, it doesn't matter. It's going to end when that scripting ends.
Okay.
And you can do nothing aside from not crash and just fire 1 missile at the end and you got it.
That's silly.
That takes it so much. And it's the first war game
Knuckles, you should be able to get into City Hall.
before, Spec Ops The Line.
Uh-huh.
It made me feel really uncomfortable about what I was doing.
Yeah.
Except,
It wasn't intentional?
no. Because one of the missions is you're in a helicopter, and this is the first time you've been in a helicopter in this game, and in this franchise. And... okay.
That was incredible.
Amazing. Before I go any further than that, this is what I was talking about earlier, where this is the end of one of
to find the pieces of the emerald.
Sonic stage, and now you're playing as Knuckles, and you're looking for those emeralds.
Uh-huh.
And Knuckles plays a lot slower than the others. He's find the thing, so it's kind of a hot and cold kind of deal.
Okay.
But anyway, you're in this helicopter, and the other big difference is you're not in a made-up world, so you can't have these big, ridiculous super weapons, which are kind of a hallmark of the franchise.
Yeah.
And, like, since you're using the real world and since you're using real governments, you can't really have these huge, destructive wars that we're so used to in the Ace Combat series. So, instead, you're in this helicopter fighting insurgents in Africa. So you're in this modern military helicopter with an assault cannon, and they're all in pickup trucks.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so it feels like, yeah, these guys are reportedly really bad, but one of the things that happens a lot in the Ace Combat franchise is, like, you're told one thing, and then that turns out to be a lie.
Uh-huh.
And we never see the insurgents you're fighting do anything. We're just told that, yeah, these are the bad guys.
Right.
So
The tanks on the building tops can be broken.
we're never given, like, here's, like, them kidnapping people, or here's them attacking this village of civilians. No,
They just
you're,
attack you.
you're attacking their base, and they come out to fight you off.
Yeah.
But again, you're in, like, a Black Hawk with an assault cannon on the side,
Right.
and
And they're fighting defensively.
yeah, so
With shit-tier weapons.
yeah, with like hand-me-down Russian stuff that's 40 years old. So it feels really uncomfortable. Because in everything else, every other Ace Combat series starts with you're on the losing side of the war.
Right.
You're pushed back to your last base, and if you fail this mission, the war's over and you lose.
Jeez.
And now it's the complete opposite of that. And it just feels so skeezy and so... And yeah, in this modern day and
It's
age...
almost like propaganda.
Yeah.
I assume you're American, right?
Yeah, well, you're part of a UN peacekeeping force.
Oh, okay. So it's UN.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like... We are not the underdogs, which think about how much of our media is root for the underdog.
Yeah.
We are very clearly not the underdog, and we're given no reason to believe that these guys are a threat other than somebody's word.
Yeah. It sounds like it's just a war simulator.
Yeah, and...
Like, you play this soldier, and this is what your job is.
Yeah.
And you do it, and you can't question it, because if you question it, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You're going to get a bunch of dissidents in the military, and things aren't going to be as effective whether the cause is just or not.